Okay, let's go for the last two pieces of the class today, which are going to be small pieces. As we have discussed so far, we have evaluated two tasks, which was trade judgment task and mind in the eyes task. And we discussed that, how they are different in terms of the activations. What we have, obviously, it seems that we have a better, let's say, DMN activation in trade judgment. It seems that those who are doing trade judgments, they need more self-referential processing compared to what people need in doing eyes task. It might be an interesting experience if you start to think about, okay, do I get involved in terms of when I'm trying to read people's mind, do I get involved in terms of trying to do that in myself and feel that what the feeling that I have when I have this specific eye expression, or you just do mainly more, let's say, kind of processing on what is happening there and the cognitive processing that is happening there. So obviously there are variations and there are complexities in terms of how these activations would be different from each other. And if I bring you all the other types of social cognition task, this one is the first one is the Anne and Sally task. So this is what we call false belief task. We discussed about trade judgment before. There are some strategic games that you are interacting with, let's say, another person. I'm not sure if you have done, what they called hand, scissors, stone game. I'm not sure, have you ever tried that? Anybody who has any experience on doing hand, stone, scissor game? Okay, I'm trying to see if I can make a hand, scissor game here between Purya and Mikhail to see if they can win each other and who is gonna win for that. I'm not sure how it might be possible to do that in an online setting, but others, please turn on your videos. Let's just have Purya and Mikhail ready here, and you can turn on your mic to be able to communicate with each other. Okay, now you can try if you can. Okay, get ready for that and try to do that together to see if you can do it together. I'm just giving the floor to you. Yes, go ahead.
I don't. Did he stop? I don't know. I'm going back. Wait a minute.
Okay. No.
It's my okay. Okay, I think we need to stop over the online interactions.
Yeah.
Do you have me now? Is my picture stopping or is yours?
No, it's moving fine.
Okay.
But I think we have to shout rock, paper, scissors, and then
I know.
Show our...
We're having ping problem. Latency.
Yeah. Okay. So rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, I'm going rock. Okay.
Okay, so it seems a little bit hard to do it in like an online platform because a little bit of delay and the interaction. So you can see that how much it is important for you to be able to do social interactions, to be able to do that. So you need to be in tune with each other, read the eyes, what the other is doing and trying. This is called a strategic game. So you need to be able to read others' mind, to be able to kind of decide whether you are going to give, let's say, paper, scissor, or rock, and how you are going to play with that in something like a really fast mode. And it's quite interesting that even inside the scanner, you can do that inside the scanner. So there are put up kind of tasks inside the scanner that you can play the game inside the scanner. And there are two different scenarios. One scenario, they say that there is a computer behind that is making the series of, let's say, responses. And the other scenario is that there is somebody else who is playing with you. And even they compare that if there is something like just a random series of rock, scissors, paper, compared to the time that you feel that there is somebody else is behind that is playing with you. And in both scenarios, the sequence is the same. So they are giving you exactly same sequences of rock, paper, scissors. But the only difference is that one time you feel that somebody else is playing with you, and the other time you just feel that this is something like a computer-generated sequence that you are being exposed to. And even they realize that there are significant differences in terms of when you feel that somebody else is reading your intention and playing with you based on your previous responses, or when you feel that, okay, it's just a kind of computer-generated sequence and there is no feedback or no strategy in terms of beating you up inside the scanner. And you can see that there is a variation for that one as well. So this is called a strategy game. So it's another level of, let's say, social cognition games. We discussed about social animations, how those small animations could be related to the intentionality. We talked about mind, reading the eyes from the minds. And there are some rational action games that, for example, there is a scene that there is a guy here, let's say, a guy is here in front of a desk, and there is something like a plate in front of him, and the plate is empty, and the waitress is coming here. And then what will be the next move? How they interact with each other? What would be the next interaction between these people? So this person probably would order something. So what would be the next? They call the rational actions, and they give you different options in terms of, okay, what would be the next move by the waitress? What would be the next move by the man who is behind the seat? So these are what they call rational actions. But if you want to be able to understand the next move, you need to have a level of mental representation of those who are in the scene and what they are going to do for the next move. This is another level of, let's say, what we call social cognition task. And you can see here we have 6 different versions that they are tapping into different aspects of social cognition. As you can see here, there are some shared activation, there are some variations. And if we put them together in a single map, trying to color code them based on the, let's say, the number of theory of mind tasks that this area would get activated from 6 to just 1. Obviously, as you can see here, this area would be activated by all 6 tasks that we discussed about. There are some areas like here that would be activated by, let's say, 2 or 3 tasks. And there are some areas that would be related to something like 4 tasks, 5. So you can see that how there are still shared areas. And if we just put the signal there without considering the numbers, there are specific areas that are more consistently get activated when we have a social cognition task. But obviously what we have is a combination of what we have been discussing in terms of a default mode network and a sort of executive control network being engaged in this process. I'm not sure. I have a student who is working right now in terms of differentiating the executive control network here. We think it is not really executive control network. It is what we call ventral attention network. So I'm not going to discuss about that. So we are writing a new paper. We think that what we have here is not really a completely fully executive control network. It's another level of network that we call ventral attention network. We are working on that, preparing paper on that. But it's not a discussion I'm going to bring up today. But as you can see here, at least there are 2 networks. One task positive executive control network, and the other is default. And so both aspects are involved in social cognition. So we need to see ourselves through default mode network, and we need to see others through executive control network to be able to communicate in the social cognition. Without these two parts working together, nothing would be happening at the end of the day to have these social interactions. So that is why, I mean, we have these variations, but at the end of the day, we have a sort of a level of consistency to have both networks be involved in these processes. There are two other studies that are interesting to be explored. I'm trying to just give you an idea about those two studies. One study that has done a really interesting approach to trying to understand what we call social cognition. So they were thinking that if when we talk about social cognition and emotion, these are the main key terms that we have in this field. And there is a specific platform that I really like to introduce today, which is called Neuroscience. If you just Google Neuroscience in your computer, Neuroscience, you will find a website which is interesting. Let me just bring it up. Neuroscience. So if I just go for neuroscience.org, this is the website that they have. And they have 14,000 fMRI studies in their database. And they developed 1,335 terms like working in memory. And they tried to do meta-analysis for all these terms. So you can even, let's say, look for a specific, let's say, term. I can search for things like reward. If I go for reward, there are different versions of reward. If I go for reward only, there would be something like 30,000 subjects from 922 studies, fMRI studies. And this would be the map. Okay, so they give you a map of if we do reward processing, what are the areas involved if we do a meta-analysis on this 922 studies that they have a reward processing there. Okay, so they use this Neuroscience with a couple of key terms, as you can see here. So they extract. So this is not the data that they have collected. So they just collected this data from Neuroscience, and then they just put them together, and they try to use a machine learning method to be able to define, let's say, two major components of activation within this database. And they realized that they can have two major components. One that would be mainly related to the emotion, reward, autonomic, endocrine processing, and the other that would be related to default mode memory areas. And then the combination of both that would make self and mentalization, because you need to have basically your default mode and memory, and then the combination with emotion. But at the end, that would make what we call self and social cognition. And these two components, as you can see here, the blue one, as you can see here, obviously, is the, as you can see, the activations is the more default mode one. But also there is but I can say that it's something like orange one, that would be more towards the reward areas in the brain, in the subcortical areas in the reward part of the brain that are composing this part. And they both together would go for what they call self and social cognition. They probably could have another executive control network component to this, but as you can see here, this is not. I mean, they have tried to, this is what they call a social cognition. So they are mainly sort of introspective reward processing of social cognition, not the attention executive part of the social cognition. That is the reason that they do not have any social cognition, any executive control network involved. But within those, let's say, reward processing, introspective part of social cognition, they were able to differentiate two factors, one mainly related to emotion and reward, and the other related to memory and default mode and self-referential processing. And the combination of both together, they made what they call self, as something like kind of between of these two major components. And so that's a good kind of representation of how these different brain activations could contribute together from the reward side to the memory side to make what we call self and self-referential processing. And at the end, all of them together to make what we call social cognition and what we have in the social cognitive processing. You can find the paper here. It's a really nice paper with a group of colleagues from Colombia and the people. I cannot read the part here, but I can imagine they are from the University of Colorado because Thor Wager is from the University of Colorado. I cannot read I can just read till here because my go-to meeting is coming. This is the area that I can see. I cannot see this part of the screen. But the guy whose name is here is Thor Wager. And Thor Wager was in Colombia when he was a student there. Now he is a full professor in University of Colorado. So I can imagine the second one should be University of Colorado. And this is a kind of interesting sort of kind of understanding about these processes. Okay, that should be enough for, let's say, giving you an idea about different sort of brain functions that are involved in social cognition and how they contribute to different aspects of social cognition.